Very good afternoon to you. Sky Sports News on deadline day. All the very latest from around the country in just a moment. But first, some breaking news right now. Police in the UK have apologised to the Hillsborough families for their response to the disaster in 1989. It's the first time national police leaders have said sorry for how the families have been treated. Chief Constable Andy Marsh, who is the CEO of the College of Policing, said policing has profoundly failed those bereaved by the Hillsborough disaster over many years, and we are sorry that the service got it so wrong. Police failures were the main cause of the tragedy and have continued to blight the lives of family members ever since. When leadership was most needed, the bereaved were often treated insensitively, and the response lacked coordination and oversight. The National Police Chiefs Council Chair, Martin Hewitt, said this: "As police officers, we come to work to keep the public safe, and as a service, we failed to do this at Hillsborough. I am deeply sorry," he goes on, "for the tragic loss of life and for the pain and suffering that the families of the 97 victims experienced on that day and in the many years that have followed. Collectively, the changes made since the Hillsborough disaster and in response to the Right Reverend James Jones's report aim to ensure the terrible police failures made on the day and in the aftermath can never happen again." That just in, and we'll continue to reflect that story as the day goes on here on Sky Sports News.
OK, so we have less than 11 hours to go this deadline day. We are live right now, Sky Sports News YouTube, TikTok and Twitch, and some players in sharp focus who could be on the move. Enzo, Jorginho, Russo, maybe not Caicedo, but one that we know is done, is João Cancelo, our first major deal of the day. He has completed a loan move from Manchester City to Bayern Munich. He arrived in Munich yesterday to complete the deal. Cancelo's game time has been limited this season since the World Cup. It's understood his representatives have brought Bayern's interest to City in the hope of doing a deal, and that is what has been done. So, one major deal confirmed, but Chelsea are going to be at the heart of today's news. Will they break the British transfer record? And just how many players will leave Stamford Bridge before that 11 p.m. deadline? Let's head to Paul Gilmore at Chelsea, and one of the clubs set to benefit from the departures. Arsenal, Gail Davis will be covered by them. So let's have a look with Paul first of all. Enzo Fernandez, where are we at with just under 11 hours to go?
Well, this afternoon, Chelsea and Benfica locked in talks over the transfer of the World Cup winner. Those discussions centre around the structure of the £105 million payment and just how many payments that will consist of and how Chelsea will pay that. Fernandes wants to join Chelsea. He has made that clear to Benfica. And if Chelsea get this one over the line, it will take their spending since the summer to over £600 million. It will take their spending in January alone to over £300 million. So that's where we are at the moment with those talks. It will break the British transfer record. That was Jack Grealish to Manchester City. And what it does mean and what the signings have meant for Chelsea this window is a bit of a bloated squad. Will Chelsea remain in talks with PSG over the move for Hakim Ziyech and also Conor Gallagher's interest from Everton and Newcastle? He doesn't want to go to Everton. Newcastle don't want to pay the fee Chelsea are asking for Gallagher at the moment and would prefer a lower fee. Also, Jorginho, one of those 2021 Champions League winners, is on the verge of moving across London to rivals Arsenal.
OK, so from Paul Gilmore to Gail Davis, who is at the Emirates. Gail, we know that Caicedo looks like a no, but Jorginho could be a go, as Paul was explaining. How close is the Italian to joining Arsenal?
Closing in on an 18-month contract, which has the option for an extra year. Fee thought to be around £12 million. Mikel Arteta has made it clear in these final few weeks of the transfer window he wants to strengthen that midfield. We know how good Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka have been over these past few months, helping guide Arsenal to the top of the table. But Partey picked up that rib injury. Don't know how bad that is. They are short of cover there. El Neni as well, suffering from a bit of an injury. So if they could get him in, you heard from Paul, huge experience, won the Euros with Italy, won the Champions League with Chelsea. And when you look at where Arsenal are right now, 5 points clear at the top, game in hand, 50 points already. Great chance, haven't they, of winning the Premier League for the first time in almost 20 years. And he understands, Arteta, that the demands on his squad are going to be greater in the next few months. Thursday, Sunday, and that's why he had to get bodies in today.
Thank you very much indeed, Gail. From North London to the northeast of England and St James's Park, Keith Downey, we've had one player in at Newcastle this morning. What are the chances of a second before the deadline?
Yeah, David, Chelsea obviously doing business with Arsenal, but will they do business with Newcastle? It's beginning to look like no. That was the answer last summer when Newcastle tried to bring in Conor Gallagher and Christian Pulisic. They were not willing to do business with a direct rival. It's looking pretty much like that this way this month as well. Newcastle interested, very keen, should I say, in bringing in Conor Gallagher, a player they really want to bring to the football club. But as the clock ticks down towards the deadline, it's looking ever increasing that Chelsea will not do business. While they are unwilling to loan, I think they would potentially sell to Newcastle United, but I think the price, round about £50 million, is too high for Newcastle to spend this window, given the fact they've just splashed out 40 plus 5 for Anthony Gordon over the weekend. So it's looking less and less likely that Newcastle will bring any more in. However, they did conclude a deal earlier this morning for Harrison Ashby, the young right-back from West Ham, for £3 million.
Keith, thank you very much indeed. We love bringing you the big names on Sky Sports News on deadline day. Paul Merson on the way very, very shortly here. But for now, let's cross to our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy, who is with Jamie Carragher.
Yes, an unprecedented transfer window means we need to have unprecedented analysis. And I've got Jamie Carragher to do that with me. Jamie, there's only one place to start, Chelsea. They could be breaking the British transfer record, but what have you made so far of their spending and the players they've got in?
It feels a little bit scattergun. I think we felt that in the summer. I do think that there is obviously a plan behind what they want to do in the future. I'd be really interested to maybe know the private thoughts of the manager, actually, because it just feels like he's come into this club and it's just like the players are just coming in, leaving, left, right and centre, and he's got to build something and create some sort of team. He's going to have great players, but can you create that sort of team ethic, that bond that all great teams need in the future? But as I said, I mean, as you're a Chelsea fan, it's really exciting, I suppose. And, Todd Bowley's come in now. He's put his money where his mouth is. And he wants to get Chelsea right back to the top.
You make a good point there on Potter and how this is the antithesis of how he usually works. How difficult is it to integrate so many new players in January, especially given the position Chelsea are in the league?
That's a problem in itself, integrating players normally at like a pre-season, but that's obvious, we know that, it's January. It's also what this effect has on the players that are already there. And, if players feel like they're not going to get an opportunity, if they can't get certain players out today, what's the feeling, what's the spirit like on the training pitch? Because, even listen to Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, they don't like the biggest of squads for that reason, that it's hard to keep people happy. You need to keep sort of, everyone upbeat and feeling like they've got a chance of playing and contributing as well through a season. So that could be a big problem for Graham Potter between now and the end of the season. But I'm sure there'll be a few people going. It looks like Jorginho's on his way to Arsenal, so that'll be one out. But, they've certainly gone for it in the two windows that the new owner's been involved in. How successful that makes them, who knows? Because, as I said, we've probably seen with probably the biggest example of that is probably Manchester United in the last 10 years have thrown so much money at it and have never quite got exactly where they want to be. And, for Chelsea, they'll be hoping that they do maybe what Abramovich has done before at that club, because that's how they started, and it did prove very successful.
Now you can follow the latest on the developments on Enzo Fernandez on Sky Sports News. But like you say, Chelsea's business affecting outgoings and other clubs. Arsenal, Jorginho, they are definitely feeling like they've got their hands almost on the title and they're doing everything possible to keep it there.
Rightly so. I spoke to Mikel Arteta. We did the Monday Night Football special with him. He came in and I asked him that question. He was never going to admit that it was a chance that they can't sort of let go in this January window. I felt that would be a big name striker coming in because of the situation with the Jesus. They brought Trossard in, but Nketiah's done so well. Trossard may just end up being an impact player maybe from the bench. But I think they've got a slight problem in midfield, and that they've been fortunate. The midfield's basically played all season without being injured. I think if I'm right, El Nenny's picked something up that may be a little bit more serious than maybe they're letting on at the moment, and he is the backup for midfield, and they need to bring someone in. So they've gone for obviously Caicedo. Can't get that done at Brighton. Maybe they've looked at other players, and Jorginho it's an interesting one, and I can totally understand it, but I think I was listening to people talking about it today, talking about he's not the sort of style of Arsenal's play, so quick now and it's so fast and energetic, and he's the opposite of that, and I get that argument, but I also think with maybe 10 games to go in the season, when they might actually need cool heads, when there's a pressure moment, the nerves are, coming on in that title run-in with sort of 7 or 8 games to go, he may actually be a really good signing in terms of being actually slowing things down, cooling heads. He's a player who's won a Champions League and a European Championship in the last few years. He's a top player, there's no doubt about that. And but yeah, he is a different style of play. But I'm not saying that's for Arsenal week in, week out forever, but I think that could be a big help for them towards the end of the season if, as I said, they're getting quite nervous.
Now, a piece of breaking news on a club that's not likely to be active today. Well, we'll get to them. Manchester United, Christian Eriksen out until April or May. Big blow for them.
A big blow, because I think, the midfield is basically in the biggest turnaround, I think, for Manchester United this season in terms of Casemiro being there, Eriksen coming in alongside him, and Fernandes in front of them. So they've had a great little trio for a lot of the season. So I think that will be a blow. I mean, they've got Fred and McTominay there, who, have been much maligned over the last couple of years. I think a lot of that's been a little bit harsh, if I'm being honest. And I think Fred alongside Casemiro, you're talking about Brazil's central midfield, I think, over the last few years. They've certainly played quite a lot together. And, it's a blow for Manchester United, but Man United's not going to win the league, and I don't think they're going to fall out the top 4 either. So I don't think it's a massive blow where it's going to massively affect them in terms of where they finish this season, because I think they're playing that well now. I don't see them dropping outside of the top 4. And as I said, I think there's too big a gap now between themselves, Arsenal and City.
You brought Liverpool up. I was going to leave them alone. But Konate, another one added to the injury list. They're not going to be active today. But the situation Liverpool find themselves in, is it more than transfers that's going to get them out of the situation?
Well, medically wise, they've had a really bad season in terms of injuries. Sometimes that can be down to bad luck. Sometimes that can be down to, the way injuries are looked after, who's involved. I know that, they haven't replaced a doctor who left, I think, in the summer. Whether that's a problem, I'm not sure. But they've had really bad luck, or they need to sort that, medical departments out one way or another. In terms of transfer-wise, I can understand frustration of Liverpool fans when they see clubs, spending money left, right and centre. And Liverpool, it almost looks like because they're not bringing someone in, they're giving up on that fight for top 4. But what I would never want my club to be was what they were when I was a player, which was a little bit scattergun, panicking at different times. I think Liverpool over the last 4 or 5 years have been a model that most clubs around Europe have wanted to follow. And what they don't do is panic in the transfer market. And I think Jurgen Klopp has shown that before when he's had really successful buys that he's brought in, namely Virgil van Dijk. He waits for the player that he wants. Now, if Liverpool aren't bringing players in now because they haven't got the money, or the player isn't there that Jurgen Klopp wants, that is a completely different argument. Now, we don't know that. We're not privy to that information. But I'm convinced Liverpool will have a big summer. I'm sure a lot of fans want them to have a big January. But I would not want Liverpool to go back to what they used to do when I was playing, where you'd be buying players and hoping that it would work. More often than not, Liverpool's signings work because Jurgen Klopp gets the man that he wants, and they bide the time for him and don't panic.
You speak there about not panicking, but do they sometimes not do enough? Are they too risk averse, especially when you look at that midfield area that hasn't been evolved and invested in for a long period of time? When you consider how much money they've spent on forwards and neglected the midfield, do you see an issue there, especially when you look at their form this season?
Well, listen, that doesn't mean to say I'm right or the club are right in terms of Jurgen Klopp, but I think they got to the summer and they were well aware what they needed to do in midfield. They tried to sign Tuchumeni. He went to Real Madrid. So I think Liverpool were at the stage in the summer where they almost won 4 trophies in a Champions League final, where they were thinking, for us to bring a player in, he needs to be special. And they felt Tuchumeni was that player. He goes to Real Madrid. It's obvious they've been working on Jude Bellingham transfer for a long time. They weren't going to sell it this summer, so maybe they thought we'll wait till next summer and this midfield can get us through. And I've said this before, it's just blown up in the face. And yeah, it's their job to see these things before they happen, and they've got that wrong. There's no doubt, but I can understand it. So I'm not going to be massively critical of them for not bringing a midfield player in the summer, because the two players that they wanted were not available. And that goes back to my point that Liverpool, I think, and Jurgen Klopp, throughout all his time at Liverpool, wants to get the player that he wants, not just to bring a body in. And listen, a body could work. A player coming in could change things. I'm not denying that. But the track record over the sort of 5 or 6 years and how they've gone about it has worked more often than not. So for the time being, I'm prepared to bide my time till the summer.
Jamie prepared to bide his time. I'm not sure there's a lot of people at home on deadline day willing to do the same. He also speaks about good processes, Brighton and their recruitment, absolute standout club. But you can follow all the latest deals live on Sky Sports News.
Yeah, Melissa, we've got great processes here in the Sky headquarters to bring you all the latest news as it happens. Just to bring you a little bit more on Christian Eriksen, who Melissa said is out for a while. United are saying till late April or early May. He hurt his injury in a tackle with Andy Carroll in the FA Cup win over Reading at the weekend. Came off in the second half. But United stressing they do hope, although investigation's still going on, that he'll be back for the end of the season. Could be a push for who knows what for United by that point. And just a bit more on Ibrahim Konate, the Liverpool central defender, who is out for, Liverpool say, up to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. Will that mean that any possible move for Nat Phillips on deadline day doesn't happen? Don't know. Keep watching.
Yeah, do stay with us. Paul Merson waiting very patiently on deadline day. Look, we've got a comfy seat as well, though. Going to get his views on Cancelo, Jorginho, maybe the Christian Eriksen development as well. Konate at Liverpool. That is more next to hear on deadline day.
Welcome back to Deadline Day here on Sky Sports News. Busy old time here at the hub of all the action. And as people are kind of getting into their lunch break here, if you've got 5 minutes, why don't you head to our website, skysports.com. There's a Deadline Day Q&A live with our transfer expert, Lyle Thomas. Ask him whatever you like. We've got some interesting breaking injury lines for you as well. Manchester United midfielder Christian Eriksen likely to be out until late April or early May with an ankle injury that he got during the win over Reading in the FA Cup on Saturday. Came off in the second half. And another significant injury in the northwest.
At Liverpool, where it's bad news about Ibrahima Konate. Alan Irwin live at the training base. What can you tell us, Alan?
Yeah, it's another major blow for Liverpool defensively. Already without Virgil van Dijk, who's got another couple of weeks before he will return to action. They will lose Ibrahima Konate, picking up an injury at the weekend. It's a hamstring problem, which will see him miss up to 3 weeks. Games against Wolves, the Merseyside derby against Everton, Newcastle too, and potentially the Champions League last 16 tie against Real Madrid. It leaves Liverpool with just two first-team central defenders, really. Probably Joe Gomez and Joel Matip, the only two ones to fill that role. And potentially it puts any halt on a move for Nat Phillips, who's only played 2 Premier League games this season, but he was the subject of attention from Galatasaray. Now, Jurgen Klopp is likely to put a stop on that. He's not one to panic buy in the transfer window, Jurgen Klopp, but I would think that he'll certainly need defensive cover in Nat Phillips. Ibrahima Konate has only started 4 Premier League games this season. Didn't start until October because of injury issues. Out again for at least 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick and David. Let's finally welcome our guest who's here till 2 p.m, Paul Merson. Great to see you, Merce. Thanks for coming along.
Pleasure.
Let's get your take on Jorginho first and foremost. How good a deal is that for Arsenal?
I think outstanding. You're buying experience as well. I think, you know, his experience, he's won big trophies. You know, he is a proper holding midfield player. You know, I was only talking about 2 years ago when they won the Champions League, Italy won the Euros. We're going, why don't England produce one of these players? You know, 2 years on, Arsenal could be getting him. I know he's 2 years older, but he's so intelligent. He'll protect the back four, and he just gives it simple. He'll be feeding Odegaard, he'll be feeding Saka, Martinelli. For me, he's a top signing, and he knows the game. He knows he won't be playing every week. He knows if everybody's fit, he won't be playing. But he will bring that experience and calmness. He never panics on the ball. You know, and for me, in this day and age of the transfers, you know, I'd call it a cup of tea at £12 million.
Any concern over the tempo? Some people have said that maybe he slows things down a touch. Would that be a problem for Arteta?
I mean, sometimes that needs to happen at Arsenal. I think, you know, there's times when that will need to happen. You can't keep on playing at 100 mile an hour at high tempo. Sometimes you've got to, you know, slow the game down, give people breathers and play the game at your pace. You know, I do find sometimes Arsenal will play 100 mile an hour. I mean, if you come in and watched Arsenal play sometimes and the score wasn't up, you wouldn't know what the score was. You know, they'd still be going for it at 2-0 up like they were at 1-0 down. So you have to change the game up. I think I would worry about him in 1v1 situations, but it's very rare he gets in them situations.
What about elsewhere at Arsenal? Are you happy with the window overall? Jakub Kiwior coming in, Leandro Trossard, or are they still lacking a striker? How do you see that situation?
I think Nketiah has surprised them in a way. I think, you know, they're probably saying that they're not surprised, but I think it's going to save them a lot of money. I think you've got to be lucky in football. You've got to be lucky. If you want to make it as a footballer, there's a big part of that's got to be luck. And he got that lucky opportunity and he's took it with both hands. You know, if he'd have had 2 bad games, they'd have been buying a centre-forward this window for 50, 60, 70 million. Now he's done it, you know, he's done what he's done well. He got his break and he's took the advantage. And, you know, I couldn't talk highly enough. He's shocked me in a way. I thought he might do it for 1 or 2 games, but the kid's been outstanding.
What do you make of Enzo Fernandez? Potentially £105 million from Benfica to Chelsea. You talk about luck. Are they gambling a little bit, Chelsea, there? Potentially with a long contract as well?
It's a lot of money. He is a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. I don't really like buying people on the back of World Cups. I think you need more than that. But he was outstanding. It's a lot of money. This league's like no other league in the world. It's so difficult. But you have to take a chance along the way. You know, 108 million or 107 million is a lot of money. Only in time will tell. But if he produces what he produced in the World Cup, but the World Cup's not the Premier League, if I'm being honest. then he'd be good.
Let's run through quickly the Chelsea signings. Mudryk, Badiashile, David Datro Fofana, Andres Santos from Vasco da Gama. Atletico Madrid player João Felix is on loan, was suspended, of course, lately, and Noni Madueke. Do they have what they need, though, after all those signings? Because they still lack a striker,
well,
don't they?
They need a striker. You're not going to win anything without a striker, in my opinion. You need someone, Chelsea haven't had anybody since the Drogba days, in my opinion. When Drogba was there, I think they need a centre-forward. And until they get a centre-forward, it's going to be hard. It will be hard without a centre-forward. I like the lad, the centre-half from Monaco. I think he's top draw. 2 games, 2 clean sheets. And he defends. He's interested in defending. But the others, it's bang, 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 bang. And then the manager's got a job now of going, wait a minute, I've got to put a team together now.
Do you think does he have to be involved in this, or do you think he's going to be slightly bewildered by it?
I hope that he's involved in it. I like what Jamie said about it being interesting what the manager thinks. And I do. The manager's the one. I'm a big fan of the manager, Graham Potter. I think he needs time, but he can only get time if it's his players. He plays a certain way. He wants them to play a certain way. And I hope that he's bringing these players in. 7-8 year contracts are a long time in football. It's too long. If
you're in the Chelsea squad now, and a midfield player in particular, do you look at an exit? Do you expect Conor Gallagher to go? And can you understand why he might not want to move to Everton?
I think if Everton were mid-table, he'd fly there. I think he'd fly there. It's a hard one at the moment because if they get relegated, he's just going from one of the biggest clubs in the country and in Europe, in Chelsea, to the Championship. I think if Everton was safe, I think he might have gone. I think he ticks every box for Everton. If I was Everton, I'd be trying my hardest to do a deal where, even if I'm paying £10 million fee to get him on loan to the end of the season, I think he's worth it. I think if Conor Gallagher goes to Everton, he would keep Everton up. I think that is exactly what they're crying out for.
Yeah, I think a lot of interest in Conor Gallagher at Chelsea. That's Paul Merson for now. He's here, though, until 2 p.m. Speak to him again very shortly.
Cheers, Teddy. Cheers, Merce. I think it's time to talk about one of Merce's favourite topics and favourite clubs, which is Spurs. But could they potentially be playing right-back roulette, Nick?
Well, yes. Number 1 target, Pedro Porro, on-off deal. He's having a medical, so is it definitely on and not off, Michael Bridge?
On. Medical underway. The player very, very excited about joining the club. Of course, there's reports yesterday that the deal was off, but Spurs negotiated with Sporting Lisbon, and what we reported this morning, the deal is now a loan deal with an obligation to buy the £5 million loan deal, and the future fee will be £39 million. Sporting Lisbon wanted the loan. This is the key here, not Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur have accepted that, so that's expected to get done later today. 2 going out, right backs, Matt Doherty. Wow, that was one of the surprises of today so far. Going to Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone will be coaching him like he did with Kieran Trippier. He joins Sergio Reguilon, who's left back there for Atletico, who's on loan from Tottenham Hotspur as well. And Jed Spence expected to complete his loan move from Rennes later today.
Michael, thank you very much indeed. Big breaking news coming out of Manchester United this hour concerning Christian Eriksen has been ruled out with injury until April at the earliest. Will that force United into making any deadline day signings? Erik ten Hag's just been speaking to the media. Let's have a listen to what he's had to say.
We've just seen a statement about Christian Eriksen's injury. How is he mentally? How are you guys? I mean, it's a huge blow.
Of course, he's disappointed about. We are disappointed about, but yeah, that's happened in top football. And it shouldn't have happened, but yeah, it did, and yeah, you have to deal with it.
He's obviously been a very important player for you since he's arrived. Do you believe you have enough depth to cover him in the squad, or is it, as it's deadline day, could you move in the market to replace him?
As you said, something coming out on deadline day, then it's difficult, and you can't make policy on such bad injuries. But we have players in the midfield department, and good players. We also we have players who can fill that gap.
If incomings are unlikely at this point, Eric, in the window, what about outgoings? I'm thinking of the likes of Anthony Elanga, Facundo Pellistri, Brandon Williams. Could any of those leave before the deadline tonight?
Yeah, could be, but depends on certain circumstances.
would that only be on loan for the rest of the season?
If so, that would be likely, that would be loans, yeah.
A lot of very busy managers today, not least Sean Dyche will be live to Everton and to Southampton in a couple of minutes on Deadline Day. Sky Sports News live from Sky headquarters on Transfer Deadline Day. We're talking WSL in just a second. We're live to Southampton as well.
And do you know what? With 10.5 hours to go, it's always good when you have a bit of a tug of war over one player. That's the case with Everton and Southampton. Very, very shortly, we're going to be speaking to Mark McAdam. But let's head first to Vinny O'Connor, who is covering Everton today. So who is the man in sharp focus who Everton may be signing? Tell us, Vinny.
Well, we knew of their long-standing interest in Sulemana at Rennes, of course, and there was potential maybe, we thought, for a deal to get done there. However, he won't be moving to Everton. It seems that he has chosen Southampton. Mark McAdam will bring you more on that shortly as well. But the other potential deal is Viktor Gyökeres, of course. Again, long-standing interest in the Coventry striker. 13 goals in 29 games for Coventry this season. We're told that is a move that's not happening as well. Also being ruled out, moves for Andre Ayew. It seems that he wasn't on Everton's radar. Torgan Hazard, Geraldo Becker at Union Berlin. Geraldo Becker staying put at Union Berlin. Paul Onuachu, again another player who is not coming to Everton. Now, we know that Everton would like to bring in players who can effectively hit the ground running for them. They want players who can come straight into that first-team squad, players who will be available to go straight into that first team against Arsenal at the weekend. At the moment, though, they're in danger of finishing this transfer window weaker than when they started because of the departure of Anthony Gordon, and also being the only team in the relegation battle at the moment not to have strengthened. So they haven't got very much time to change all that.
OK, thank you very much, Vinny O'Connor. Let's check in with Mark McAdam then, been across all the deals involving Bournemouth, where I know you're expecting a busy day. But what about Southampton, Mark? Looks like Nathan Jones' side have won the race for that pacey winger that Everton are apparently in desperate need of.
Yes, Southampton have been in a number of tug-of-wars over players this window. And finally, it looks like they've won one. They've agreed a deal with Rennes for the winger, striker, inside forward, however you want to describe him, Kamaldeen Sulemana, and potentially this could be a club record fee. Our understanding is that the deal is worth £22 million plus bonuses, which potentially could take it to that record fee figure. He's a young player, just 20 years old. He's someone that will add potency to Southampton's attack, which is exactly what Nathan Jones has been telling the media for the last few weeks is something that he'd like to do. We know that they're in the market for a striker. They wanted to add to those attacking bursts, and a player that has scored in Ligue 1 this season in his 14 appearances and played in the Europa League as well will certainly be a welcome addition. It's our understanding at the moment that he's in France, where he'll go through the formalities of the medical before heading to the UK to put the finishing touches to the deal. Of course, Southampton currently in Newcastle at the moment as they prepare for tonight's League Cup semi-final against Newcastle. But this will be seen as a significant addition to Nathan Jones' side. We know that they're fighting relegation at the moment, and the fact they've got one of their key acquisitions, one of their key targets over the course of this window, virtually over the line, will be seen as a big plus for Southampton. But one final thing on the Saints, it's not been ruled out to me that they won't try and get another player, potentially another number 9. So watch this space, because Southampton looking to do business on this very dramatic deadline day as well.
OK, great stuff. Mark McAdam, thank you very much. Back to you shortly, no doubt. Let's check in with Mercer's thoughts on Everton first and foremost, and the challenge facing Sean Dyche. Not going to get Kamaldeen Sulemana, it sounds like, who is a pacey winger, Ghana international. How big a blow is that?
Yeah, major. The way that Sean wants to play 4-4-2, he'll want wingers that get the ball in and you know, I thought Ziyech would have ticked the box there for Everton, someone like that, who doesn't mess about, gets down the wing, puts the ball in the box. They need to bring players in. You know, if you're not bringing players in, I didn't see the point in changing Frank. It wasn't the manager, it's the players. So for me, they need better players if they're going to stay up.
How dangerous is panic buys, and will everyone at Everton have anxiety over signings over the past 5 or 6 years? What's happened there?
They got to have a go. They got to have a go. Where they are in the league, they're struggling badly. I don't personally think this team will. I think it will struggle to stay up. I think they need to bring in fresh blood and a bit of belief just to pick the fans up as well, in my opinion. So for me, I think they need 1 or 2 players. You know, it's a time, you know, renowned January for gambling. I think they got to take a gamble, in my opinion.
They've not got a lot of Premier League goals in the squad, have they? Is it a striker they need, or is it pace, this word Bielsa talks about?
Yeah, I would say legs. I'd say pace. I think they need legs in the team. I think, you know, Sean's going to get them working very hard. I think that's the one thing you can be assured of, that they will work hard. But it's all right running around. You need that little bit of goal at the same time. And I think someone like a Ziyech brings that kind of that bit of guile, or you bring in Conor Gallagher, for me, who's a top player, and he gives you that burst. You know, the crowd love that. Do you know what I mean?
And goals potentially as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a fluent goal scorer, do you know what I mean? But he'll make things happen, he'll close down, it becomes infectious. You know, he closes down, everybody follows, the crowd get lifted, and I think them kind of things, I would take. You're not taking a chance on Conor Gallagher, of course you're not, he's a good player, but I would take a chance on a loan deal. You might have to pay 10 million. But you've got to gamble, you know, you either play in the Championship next season or it costs you £10 million. You know, you've got to weigh that up. At the moment, I think this team struggles to stay up.
What do you make of Sulemana going to Southampton in terms of a statement of intent from Southampton?
Again, Southampton have got to change it up. You know, they have to change it. You know, where they are in the league, they need to bring in fresh blood. It's good signing. And you hope that they hit the ground running and they do well. Again, it's a gamble. It's January. You know, you've got to bring players in that you know that are going to come in, hit the ground. And that's always the gamble in January. I'm not a great lover of it, if I'm being honest. I think, you know, people buy players and you think, well, you never bought them on January the 1st, so why are you interested in them on January the 31st?
Yeah, they've got a massive match at St James's Park tonight, haven't they, as well? Do you think just the fact that James Ward-Prowse has been moved forward, does it show that Nathan Jones is getting them in the right direction, though?
Yeah, they had a good week the other week when he was under pressure, you know, and I was pleased for him, the manager. He's got given an unbelievable opportunity and he got good results. It's so hard down there. It's so hard. This league is the hardest league in the world. You've got to get results. And it's never an easy game. Do you know what I mean? It's Southampton. He's not. Whoever you're crying out for, it's going to be a hard game. You know, it's different for like a Chelsea who went Man City. Then you're crying out for, no disrespect to Forest at home or Southampton at home, where you know you're going to win the game and then you start again. But it's so hard down there. I think teams have got to gamble. You have to be in this league. If you're not in this league, that's it.
And how important it's a guarantee? You talked about Chelsea maybe making some long-term punts for Southampton, for Nottingham Forest. You talked about them with John Joe Shelby. How important is it to get someone that's pretty much a guarantee?
I think John Joe Shelby, I'm a big fan of him. I like him. I think he'll be brilliant for Nottingham Forest. I think, you know, they're going to have days at Nottingham Forest when the crowd will get on their back, get frustrated. He stays on the ball. He's always wanting the ball. You know, even at Newcastle, when sometimes it was a bit, crowd were on everybody's back when they weren't doing well. He's brave where he gets on the ball. And I mean brave, he's not going to go into a 60-40 against. That's not brave, that's stupid. But he gets on the ball and he pass it. And if it doesn't work out, he'll get on the ball again and pass it. I think it'll be a great signing for Forest.
OK, we'll see if Shelby goes through from Newcastle. Lots happening here on Deadline Day. We'll discuss it all with Paul Merson up until 2 o'clock.
Just over 4 hours to go until the deadline in the WSL2. And could Arsenal be about to break a world record transfer fee? Faduma and I across all things for the next few hours.
We're live in the heart of Sky HQ on Deadline Day, talking WSL with Anton Tului. Can I still be excited about a world record transfer, or has that gone away?
No, you can. You can very much get excited about it, Nick. Look, Arsenal want to sign Alessia Russo. They offered around £500,000 yesterday. That was rejected by Manchester United. As you can probably imagine why, because Manchester United are top of the league, do not want to strengthen a rival. However, Arsenal aren't giving up on this. Now, they've got two options: offer more money today, or try to sign Alessia Russo for free in the summer. They've got a long-standing interest in her. The problem is, Russo could talk to other clubs around the world right now because she's going to be a free agent in the summer. She can't talk to English clubs until the end of May. So that's the difference. So Arsenal are very much in a position now where they're going to have to not just break, but smash the world record to even get Manchester United back around the table.
There is an alternative.
There is an alternative. There's always an alternative. You've always got to have a plan B. Signa Brun, who you might remember this time last year, got a deadline day move to Manchester United from Lyon. Well, Arsenal want a similar move, a loan deal for the Danish striker to come in. The problem is Lyon don't want to give her up this time because, again, it's too close to the deadline in France. They don't want to have to go out and get a replacement. So the player's keen on the move. It depends whether Arsenal can offer enough incentives for Lyon to give her up. They've got until midnight to get that deal done because the international deadline for transfers is midnight.
And Katie McCabe, a move within London, is that possible still?
Yeah, Chelsea came in at the end of last week with an offer that I think surprised a lot of people, including Arsenal, to try to take Katie McCabe to Chelsea. That was rejected, and as my understanding, Chelsea are not going to come in with a second offer by the end of the day, so she's staying in Arsenal.
Anton, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's get some more from Fatuma Ola, who is keeping across the deadline day moves, and she's caught up with the WSL Snapchat hosts Rosie and Molly Kmitter to get their take on the window so far.
It's very busy here at Sky Sports News. I've managed to escape from the black and yellow transfer deadline day, and I've come up here to the Dub. I know you guys have just recorded your episode. There's lots of news in the WSL, but the most exciting is probably Alessia Russo potentially going to Arsenal. Do you guys see it happening?
If I'm honest, I don't see it happening in this market. I think that Manchester United, if they've got a chance of winning the WSL title this season, they have to keep Alessia Russo. I think everyone knows that, right? But I'm not shocked by the fact that Arsenal will be going in for a late sort of deal. You've got to try. Do you know what I mean? You've got to give it a go. And they've given it a go. So do I think she'll go in this market? No. But do I think that it's a potentially one for the future? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, if they don't cash in on her now, they could potentially lose in the summer on a free, and you never really want that. But moving away from Arsenal and Manchester United, lots of other stuff has been happening in the WSL. Plenty of clubs have been busy, but what ones have really stood out to you?
Well, Aston Villa's a no-brainer, right? I think they've impressed everyone. They've made some huge signings over this window, and rightly so. I think they've done incredible to get Jordan Nobbs and Lucy Staniforth in particular over the line. And then Leicester City as well. I think they've done a huge job in signing Ruby Mace recently. I think she's going to be a game changer for this Leicester side, and hopefully that will allow them to climb up the table a little bit more.
Absolutely. It's been really busy. I know we could keep talking about this, and we will keep talking about this.
Yes, we will, later on.
Yes, we're on TikTok later on. Yeah. We're doing a live stream on Sky WSL TikTok, so send in all your questions. But for now, thank you guys for joining me, and I'll leave you to it.
Thank you. See you later.
We'll be giving you updates from Manchester United and Manchester City in the next 10 minutes here on Deadline Day on Sky Sports News. They're both in the top four. Nottingham Forest just 4 points above the bottom three. Might they need a few more in today? Rob Dorset is at their training ground, edging close to two big deals. Rob, what is the latest with you?
So much going on here, so much going on with so many clubs around the country. It's a heck of a deadline day, isn't it? Let me rattle through these for you. Let's show you the pictures first of Felipe arriving at Nottingham Forest training ground a couple of hours ago. This is the Brazilian centre-back, 33 years old. Fee agreed with Atletico Madrid. He's undergoing a medical right now before he signs a short-term contract, Forest hope, before that deadline later on this evening. And John Joe Shelvey, that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, he's here as well. These are the pictures of him arriving at Forest training ground this morning. That deal should be announced soon, we hope. So just the last couple of bits of his contract being sorted out. A 2.5-year contract, as I understand it, from his move from Newcastle. We told you in the last hour that Keylor Navas, the 3 times Champions League winning goalkeeper, looks like he's not going to be moving here from PSG now. I'm told there's a financial roadblock to that deal happening. So Steve Cooper and his team hurriedly trying to find another goalkeeper that they can get in to offer cover to Dean Henderson and Wayne Hennessy. And in the midst of all of that, Forest desperate to try and get some players out as well. It is quite a bloated squad. Reading are interested in Lyle Taylor and Cafu. Lewis O'Brien has interest from Blackburn Rovers, amongst others. Steve Cook has interest from Stoke and Luton on loan. We'll keep you posted on all of those. And as ever, more details on skysports.com. Our rolling transfer blog has all that information.
Thank you, Rob. OK, that is Nottingham Forest then. A little bit of difficulty, as David says. Leeds United down there towards the bottom of the Premier League table as well. Been a good window, arguably, though, for Jesse Marsh's team. They're hoping to get it even better. Tim Thornton at Ellen Road for us. Tim, what business do you feel they'll be doing today?
There's been a great window so far. 3 major signings in already. One signing made this morning. Diego Montero has joined from the Swiss side. So that is a young player, but could progress into a first-team player. Leeds have high hopes for him. Diego Llorente, that deal is still progressing. He's in Rome ahead of a loan move there. That will become a permanent switch. So those are the deals that we know about. And then it's about whether Leeds might bring somebody in today. Well, they are looking at their central defensive options, and then there's the situation regarding Jack Harrison. Interest in him, that situation is a fluid situation. As things stand, we expect him to stay, but there could be developments as the day progresses. So lots going on at Leeds as we count down to the deadline.
Thank you, Tim.
And some breaking news to bring you from Leicester as well. Their pursuit of a defender moving another step closer. Kirsty Edwards, what can you tell us?
Yeah, certainly central defender, the key target for Brendan Rodgers today. Harry Souttar from Stoke has been the name linked with them all month, and finally they could be getting their man today. A £50 million deal plus add-ons agreed, so as long as the medical goes OK today and personal terms are agreed, Brendan Rodgers could get his man. Now, last week when I was here and it was Brendan's birthday, I asked him if he'd wished for Jack Harrison when he blew his candles out. That wish remains, but I think hopes are fading in that one, with the clubs at the moment unable to come to any agreement. So it looks like one big incoming today at Leicester City. Harry Souttar did so well for Australia over at the World Cup, could become a Leicester City player today. We will keep you right up to date here on Sky Sports News.
Thanks very much indeed, Kirsty. So much going on. You got a favourite story of the day so far?
Do you know what? Enzo, Jorginho, Russo in play. Cancelo is done, but Caicedo probably not. But ultimately, how long have we got that coming up for 10 hours to go? Plenty of time.
Conor Gallagher to Everton could be the big one, couldn't it?
That would be fantastic for Sean Dyche. And it's not just about the transfers that have happened. Could the injury to Christian Eriksen spark late action from Manchester United? All that coming up. On the Sky Sports YouTube, TikTok or Twitch accounts, we are streaming until 2 o'clock, so do stay tuned if you're heading out and about.
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome along to you. Arsenal legend Paul Merson is still with us. We're going to be discussing a big blow for Manchester United this lunchtime. Will it force them into the market? Chelsea very much in the market, but will they get Enzo Fernandez over the line for a British record deal? We'll get Merson's take on that as well. £500 million and counting since the Todd Boehly takeover.
So, will Enzo Fernandez's arrival mean that Jorginho is on his way out? Premier League leaders Arsenal close to agreeing a deal for the Italian.
And could England's Conor Gallagher be on the move today? A whole host of clubs are after him, including high-flying Newcastle United. Deadline day, 10 hours to go, 11 in Scotland. First to a major injury blow at Manchester United. Christian Eriksen ruled out with an ankle injury until at least late April. Let's talk to Ben Ranson, who's in Manchester for us. You've been talking to Erik ten Hag. What did he think? And might United, after all, have to make some deadline day signings?
Yes, I think the hole in the squad left by Christian Eriksen is certainly vast. I mean, he's been one of the standout players this season in that combination with Casemiro right in the centre of that Manchester United midfield. And Erik ten Hag spoke today about the unique qualities that he brings to the team, not only in terms of possession on the ball, but also in the final third, that ability to pick a pass, to create an opportunity in such tight spaces. He admitted he's got no one in the squad who can do specifically that, but he also spoke widely about the club's transfer strategy and that transfer deadline day is not the right time to be able to bring in someone to replace Christian Eriksen, despite the fact he's going to be out until right towards the latter stages of the season. So it's a difficult balancing act. Erik ten Hag is looking at the players in the squad right now to fill that void, but certainly today at the press conference he couldn't hide his disappointment at the news that Christian Eriksen was facing such a long time on the sidelines.
He's disappointed about, we are disappointed about, but yeah, that's happened in top football. And it shouldn't have happened, but yeah, it did, and yeah, you have to deal with it.
As it's deadline day, could you move in the market to replace him?
Deadline day, that is difficult, and you can't make policy on such bad injuries. But we have players in the midfield department, and good players. But I think you can never feel that because every player has his own characteristics and identity. So another player will always fill it in a different way. But that doesn't mean that you have to be less successful. But it's quite clear that Christian Eriksen, that is for our squad, this brings top quality. And especially he has some specifics what is hard to replace. And for instance, his impact in the final third, final ball.
Ben, Eriksen aside, is there anything else likely to happen at Manchester United transfer-wise this afternoon?
Well, as you heard there, he effectively ruled out any incomings here before the transfer deadline. Still potential for a couple of outgoings on loan specifically. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the window about Anthony Elanga and Facundo Pellistri, but it's my understanding the manager wants to keep them here. They featured, remember, against Reading in the FA Cup tie at the weekend. They also featured in that first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Nottingham Forest. You'd imagine they'd do the same tomorrow. So you'd think they will be staying at United after the deadline. Brandon Williams, though, is the one player in the first-team squad, in and around the first-team squad, probably a better way of describing him, who could still leave on loan today. It's whether United get an option that they deem suitable for him to go and get some first-team football.
Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Ransom, a major blow for Manchester United. Then Paul Merson with us until 2 p.m. How major, Merson, do you think? 3 points off Tottenham. Could that be decisive in the battle for top 4?
I think very much so. I think he's a massive part of that team, Eriksen. I'm a massive fan of his. He gives them that little bit of guile that can open up defences. And Man United are starting to earn that reputation again of teams going to Old Trafford and sitting 10 behind the ball. I think a couple of years ago, teams were going to Old Trafford and going, you know what, we'll have a go here. We've got a chance of winning. And I think now that teams are sitting back, Eriksen was the one that would open teams up. And I think he's a big miss.
Do they need to strengthen? What do you think Ten Hag will do in the short term? Will he push Casemiro forward into that role, or will he drop Fernandes back?
I think he'll probably have to drop Fernandes back, in my opinion, to play where Eriksen plays. You want to keep Casemiro where he plays. I think another outstanding footballer. I think that'll probably be the way they'll go. But only time will tell. He's a big miss. You know, for me, I would say out of every player, he would have been the one I wouldn't have wanted to miss if I was a Man United, is Eriksen.
Do you think they need to strengthen? Would you do something today if you were to push it?
No, I wouldn't at the moment. I just think, no, not a big, massive football club, not Man United. I don't see the panic. I think there's too much panic, as I say. If you didn't fancy someone on January the 1st, why do you fancy him on January the 31st? Because it's panic.
What about someone at Chelsea, one of their midfield options? If you offered a loan for Conor Gallagher, something like that, would that be a good solution?
I would.
For both?
I'm a massive fan of Conor Gallagher. I think he ticks the boxes for Newcastle and for Everton. I think, obviously, with the Newcastle one, they're a danger to Chelsea. But Everton, I would try and offer like £10 million loan or something like that. I know it's for 3 or 4 months, but that could be the difference of 100 million next season.
Speaking of loan deals, there has been links with Anthony Elanga and Fernando Pellistri, but as Ben Ransom says, they're neither leaving Manchester United. Are you surprised by that, particularly with Elanga who's yet to get a goal this season?
Yeah, I am. I thought he might have gone out on loan. I think, again, he would have been a good signing to go out on loan for someone, because he's a good player. I just think at the moment he's not fitting in at Man United. But it's Man United. It changes so quickly. Look at Eriksen. You're thinking, Man United are a shoo-in for the top 4. Everything's great. You know, it looks like they are in the final of the Carabao Cup. And all of a sudden, Eriksen gets injured, and now we're like, how many points are Tottenham behind Man United? And that's how quickly it changes.
Would you back him for top 4 right now?
I don't gamble anymore, but I don't. I would say, yeah. I think because of Rashford, I think they will.
Yeah, verbal guarantee. Merce, thank you very much for now. More throughout the afternoon with Paul Merson as his deals unfold.
Thanks very much, Ed. Just some stories breaking from all around the UK in terms of transfers on deadline day. Less than 10 hours to go. Nicholas Raskin has arrived at the Rangers training centre just outside Glasgow to complete his move from Standard Liège in Belgium. News from Aston Villa as well. They've approved a deal for midfielder Marvelous Nakamba to move to Luton on loan for the rest of this season. He's having a medical right now. Big player a couple of seasons ago, but not featuring very much this season. And confirmation in the last few moments from Arsenal, having had an assessment on Mo Elneny. He has got a significant injury to his right knee. More from Arsenal later this hour.
Nick, you mentioned a player who was significant a couple of seasons ago, now perhaps not just out of favour, out of the Premier League, out of the country. We're talking about Joao Cancelo. Yes, it's Bayern Munich who've completed the biggest deadline day deal so far. He's joined from Manchester City on loan with an option to make this deal permanent for £61.5 million in the summer. Let's go live to Uli Köhler, who is at the Bayern training ground. Uli, grüß dich, wie geht's? Tell us a little bit about this deal from your side. Is it as surprising to you as it is to us?
It was a surprising deal. Nobody knew about that, but Bayern was keen on Joao Cancelo for a long time. They had always they were always in contact for the last couple of years because they want to have him. That's maybe the difference to Chelsea. Bayern knows the player who they will want to sign. So he was just at the press conference, and he is very keen on it. And he loves to play for Bayern. Tomorrow there's a cup game, so he said he's already ready to play tomorrow. I don't know if the manager Julian Nagelsmann will do that, but in face it's a big deal for Bayern. He's a very experienced player. They had problems on the wing side, on the right-hand side, so it's a perfect deal for Bayern München.
The fall from grace for Joao Cancelo at City is quite spectacular, isn't it, Uli? Speculation of a fallout with Pep Guardiola. What did the player say about why he left the club?
He denied an argument with Pep Guardiola on the one hand. But on the other hand, he was asked if he was talking to Pep Guardiola about Bayern München because Guardiola had a very successful time here in Munich. He denied that too. He said it was short of time. So I think there must happen something which he doesn't want to explain, which I can't understand because he is only on loan. Maybe he has to go back to England at the end of the season. So that's why he has all doors open still. But Bayern needs him. If he can perform, if he performs well, it's a very good deal for them, especially because Benjamin Pavard, the French national player, he is out of form. He didn't play at the World Cup very much. In fact, I think he didn't play only in the first game and was substituted. And he wants to go to Barcelona. Nobody understands why when he's not performing. And then on the other hand, Mazraoui, the guy from Morocco, he played at the World Cup with a COVID injury or right after COVID injury. He has heart problems now, so they need him desperately. So Joao Cancelo is the right man at the right time and at the right club, I hope.
Uli, before we let you go briefly, any other potential deals you should be looking out for as far as Bayern or German football clubs are concerned?
No, there is also a lot of things going on, but nothing which is really interested in England. I think Cancelo is the best thing, and Bayern München, they thought they finished their transfer activities already a couple of days ago, but now the opportunity with Cancelo, which they had in mind for a long time, that made the mind changing. So he is here now, but no big deals going up. Germany has not so much money as the English clubs.
Thank you very much.
Got a good point. I think Chelsea spent more money than the entire Bundesliga, Merce. But let's talk about Joao Cancelo. What's your reaction to that? Is that Arsenal's best signing of the window, that move, do you think?
Yeah,
strengthen
we talk about 7-8 year contracts. That's how quickly football changes. You're talking last season, we was talking him being one of the main players at Man City. The way they were playing, it was sort of a lot of it was down to him. And then all of a sudden, not even a year on, he's out on loan in Germany. So, yeah, I was shocked. I was very shocked.
Arsenal be enjoying that, do you think?
I would say so. I'm a big fan of his, but it just shows you how quickly football can change.
Yeah. What about the fee then? £61+ million. What do you think of that for a 28-year-old?
Affects football matches. He affects football matches. I think him going there. He brings them in the next few years as big players in the Champions League. I think he plays in a position where it's so hard to pick up, where Zinchenko does it for Arsenal now. And I think it affects football matches, and I think it's a good deal.
Have City got enough to get over the line and to hold Arsenal back now? You look at the fullbacks in particular. Aki obviously scored against Arsenal in the Cup.
Yeah, Aki's a good defender. He had Saka in his pocket that night. There's no doubt about that. It was the first time I've seen someone keep Saka quiet this season. Watching the game the other night against Man City, I fancy Arsenal more now than when I did before that game. Okay. I think Arsenal have got enough. They're there for the long haul. I think if they can get the Jorginho one over the line, it's another body plus it's experience. Arsenal are a young football team. I was fortunate enough to be in title run-ins. It all changes with 6 games to go. It's a lot different to what it is today with 20 or 18 games to go. When it gets down to that nitty-gritty of 6 games, that's when you'll need your Jorginhos.
Yeah, and those league games against City will be key, won't they, as well? Merce, thank you for now. More from Paul Merson throughout the afternoon here on Sky Sports News on Deadline Day.
Just want to bring you some more on a story I mentioned for you about 5 minutes ago. This is Nicholas Raskin, the Standard Liège midfielder, arriving a few minutes ago at the Rangers training ground to complete his Deadline Day move. You may have heard Michael Beale on Sky Sports News yesterday being very optimistic about the move. It's happening.
Not just about Premier League clubs making signings. Championship strugglers Wigan have signed the Arsenal defender and Tunisian international Omar Rekik for the remainder of the 2022-23 season. Bournemouth have also sent midfielder Gavin Kilkenny on loan to Charlton in League One. Back into the Championship, Huddersfield close to signing goalkeeper Thomas Vaclik on loan from Olympiacos. EFL clubs very, very busy. We are live at EFL headquarters from 2 p.m. OK, let's get to Chelsea. They could break the British transfer record today. Just how many players will be leaving Stamford Bridge before 11? Live to Paul Gilmore at Chelsea. One of the clubs that's set to benefit from the departures are Arsenal. Will be speaking to Gail Davis very, very shortly. Indeed, she is live for us at the Emirates. But to you first, Paul, again, the question that everyone wants to know the answer to, what's the state of play with Enzo?
Yeah, well, as of 1:15, that all-important breakthrough has not happened. Still no deal agreed, but Chelsea and Benfica locked in talks over the transfer of the World Cup winner, and those discussions centre on the structure of the payment. Essentially, Chelsea can't pay that massive fee up front. They want it broken down into many different payments, and so that's the centre of those discussions. That's the all-important. We know Enzo Fernandez wants the move. He wants to go to Chelsea. Benfica are very much aware of that, but that's the situation as things stand. But it also means that he will, if they do get that over the line, they will have spent over 600 million since the summer. They will have spent over 300 million in this month alone, and what that means is a bit of a bloated squad, so possibly more outgoings to come today from Chelsea as well. Hakim Ziyech could well be on the way to PSG. The club's in talks about that. Conor Gallagher, again, interest there in him, namely from Everton and Newcastle, but also Jorginho, somebody who won the Champions League with Chelsea in 2021. He's on the verge of moving across London to Chelsea's rivals Arsenal.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Yeah, let's talk about the Italians, shall we? Leaders Arsenal set to get that midfield reinforcement they have been pursuing all window. Gail Davis, this one has come about quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has, hasn't it? And I think the news that you broke a few minutes ago that El Neni is out with a significant injury for a period of time just reinforces the need that Mikel Arteta needed to bring in midfield reinforcements, didn't he? Xhaka and Partey have been absolutely immense in that midfield. We don't know how bad Partey's injury is. Came off in the FA Cup, didn't he, last weekend? That was the area he wanted to strengthen. And what he gets with Jorginho is a huge amount of experience. You heard from Paul Gilmore. He's won the Champions League with Chelsea. Remember, he's a Euros winner. And you heard from Paul Merson the significance of having somebody in that run-in that has the experience, that have been in these big tournaments before. Arsenal are very, very young squad, second youngest in the Premier League. And Arteta spoke about the profile of his players, and he said, look, we can absorb a couple of older, more experienced players when he talked about bringing Trossard in, and Jorginho is one of those. A move that I guess Arsenal fans had maybe not expected it to come, but could be the difference as they chase down their first Premier League title in, what, nearly 2 decades.
Gail, thank you very much indeed.
Well, a big day of injury news. Never mind the transfers. We're talking about Christian Eriksen out till at least the end of April. 3-week absence at Liverpool for Ibrahim Konate. And a bit more on the story that Gail Davis was mentioning there. Mohamed El Neni injured at Arsenal. They've confirmed in the last 20 minutes that he's got a, quote, significant injury to his right knee. He has had, the club say, successful surgery in London and will be out for what they call an extended period of time. They're not sure how long yet, but it may, as Gail was saying, affect developments on the transfer deadline day.
Absolutely. More from Arsenal throughout the afternoon. Next, though, talking of midfielders, we're going to focus on Newcastle as well. Lots of interest in this player, Conor Gallagher, but will he finish the day as a Newcastle player? John Joe Shelby, meanwhile, leaving Newcastle to Nottingham Forest. The latest from Newcastle next. Welcome back to Sky Sports News on deadline day. We're going to be going to Newcastle momentarily. Will they be getting a second signing today? That's coming up in a few moments' time.
But first, there's always a big name that comes out of left field on deadline day. It's about, 8.5 minutes since we finished talking. Davey was having a conversation with our friend Uli in Munich, and he said, not much else happening today, to be honest, in Germany. He's back. What have you got to tell us about Marcel Sabitzer, Uli?
Right, I just got a call that here behind me at the building there is Hasan Salihamidzic, the sporting director, having his phone in the hand and talking to Chelsea and talking to Manchester United about a deal for Marcel Sabitzer. He has an offer from both clubs because after the injury of Christian Eriksen, they need a defensive midfielder. Sabitzer, Austrian international, is a very good player, and Bayern is ready to give him away on loan or just to sell him. And Chelsea, it seems that the Fernandes deal is not working out until tonight, so they need also a defensive player. So that's the latest news here. So they are in the moment, talking about it, if it works out or not. So let's be curious. Let's be curious. I'll be curious. I check back and I tell you right away if something new.
Don't go away anywhere. Noch eine Frage. One more question, Uli. If he is so good, some Chelsea and Manchester United cynics are going to be asking, why are Bayern Munich thinking about letting him go?
Yeah, well, very, very good question. Because on the one hand, they have Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka. These are the two midfielders. They are like they are in concrete. They don't go away. And the number 3 is Ryan Gravenberch. The Bayern signed in summer Ryan Gravenberch, a young Dutch international player, and he is in the moment more the player the manager Julian Nagelsmann likes than Sabitzer, because defensively Joshua Kimmich is the man who plays every game. If there are 200 games per season, he will play 200 games. So the chances for Marcel Sabitzer are pretty low that he can come in, and Bayern has the chance now that he gets some playing experience, maybe in England.
Very good answer, Uli. Recht vielen Dank. Tschüss.
Bye-bye. Wiedersehen.
Wonderful stuff. Bilingual afternoon here on Sky Sports News Deadline Day. Let's get to St James's Park, where Keith Downey can speak multiple languages, but we'll focus on English at the moment, Keith. Newcastle this morning got a player coming in, a backup fullback. What chance a second before the deadline, especially with Chelsea courting all these midfielders?
Yeah, Ed, I think as the clock ticks down towards deadline, I think it's going to be more and more difficult for Newcastle to add. Conor Gallagher is the player on everyone's lips. I know the club were very keen to bring him in. They would like to bring him in on loan. Eddie Howe yesterday said at his news conference he would like to add one more player, a loan player, if he could. But Chelsea not wanting to loan him out and not wanting really to do business with a direct rival in the shape of Newcastle. Now, I know you will say, well, surely Arsenal are a direct rival and Jorginho is going from Chelsea to Arsenal, but they're getting him, or they're paying a premium for him around £12 million, whereas I feel Newcastle aren't willing to pay what Chelsea are looking for if he was to be sold on a permanent move. So I think the feeling here at Newcastle is that they are being priced out of any kind of move for Conor Gallagher. They would have liked to add him, but I think, well, in fact, Eddie Howe said it yesterday at his news conference, he is fairly happy with what he's got. His main target this window was Anthony Gordon, and he signed him at the weekend for £40 million, rising to 45. Harrison Ashby, as you say, arrived this morning to be a backup to Kieran Trippier at right back. Young right back came in from West Ham. So I think Gallagher would be the final piece of the January transfer jigsaw for Newcastle, but I have to say it's looking less likely that will happen because Chelsea are holding out for so much money. However, the one thing you would say is if they do manage to get Enzo Fernandez in over the line, could that change their thinking? Could they soften their stance? So we will hang on and wait for that. But as I stand here right now this afternoon, I would say it looks unlikely that Conor Gallagher will be coming here to St James's Park, which of course will host a massive match tonight. Newcastle against Southampton, Carabao Cup semi-final, second leg here at St James's Park. 50-odd thousand will be packed in here in a few hours' time. And let me tell you, it will be very, very noisy as Newcastle look to get to Wembley for the first time this century
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie Howe with a lot on his mind this afternoon for sure. Thank you very much, Keith Downey.
OK, let's talk about Spurs, shall we? It's all about the fullbacks, and one in particular, Pedro Porro, is the one that all Spurs fans want to know about. Medical in London today, ahead of a move from Sporting Club. Michael Bridge, give us an update on Pedro Porro.
Hi, David. Yes, the medical is underway, and then we're just hours away. Hopefully for Spurs fans, they'll announce the big signing of Pedro Porro, their #1 target this January window. Yesterday, Spurs fans fearing the worst as the goalposts were moved. The goalposts moved back and Tottenham negotiated the deal. Now, we broke this morning that the deal is now an initial loan with an obligation, not option, obligation. So he will become a Tottenham player officially on July the 1st. Spurs paying $5 million for the loan, and then a £39 million deal has been agreed. So Antonio Conte gets the main right-back he wants. It's a position Spurs have not really sort of nailed down since Kyle Walker was here. You know, and Spurs have got Emerson Royal, but 2 right-backs will be going out today. Jed Spence is off to Rennes. Confirmation on that as soon as we get it. And then the deadline day. Is this the surprise move of the day? Matt Doherty going to La Liga and Atletico Madrid. A very exciting move for him, and I'm sure he'll be thinking about the improvement of Kieran Trippier when he had the Diego Simeone defensive tactical coaching and came back to Newcastle, arguably a better player. So he'll be going out on loan. So 1 in, 2 out, and Spurs fans asking me, will there be any more? The word is unlikely. And I tell you what, July the 1st, returning to pre-season training, there'll be a lot of players coming back from loan. Tanguy Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, Sergio Reguilon on the left for Atletico Madrid. On the right-hand side, he's got Tottenham teammate Matt Doherty, Harry Winks, Joe Rodon, Brian Hill. Woof! So they'll all be coming back on July the 1st. Another person coming back on July the 1st will be Destiny Aduge. Spurs signed him from Udinese last summer. He went back to Udinese and he's playing brilliant in Serie A. So that would be exciting for Spurs. But it does look like 1 in today.
Michael, thank you.
I think we're all going, oof, I can't do it like Michael Bridge today, but it's been that kind of day. Most could do, but needs a little bit longer to practice. So, Marcel Sabitzer, we heard Uli there in Munich saying that Hasan Salihamidzic, the sporting director, is on the phone right now to Chelsea and Manchester United. What do you make of all that?
He doesn't get in the Bayern Munich team, as the man just said. He's way off that. I know they got cemented, the 2 in midfield, but if he was that good, he'd be pushing. So, again, it goes back to panic, you know. There was no interest in him on January the 1st. Now it's a panic. If Enzo don't go over the line, they need someone. Eriksen's just got injured. And it's a panic. You're buying full-freight Bayern Munich players in. For me, I'm not sure about that.
But if you are without Eriksen, maybe it depends how ambitious you are. If you think, you know, I'm still aiming for the title here. In an ideal world, I'm not giving up on the title. Certainly top 4. I have to do something if Eriksen's not going to be around until the end of April at best.
Yeah, maybe, but as I say, it's, you know, this lad weren't on the radar before. You know, he doesn't get in the Bayern Munich team. If I'm a Man United fan and I'm a Chelsea fan, I'd be looking and going, he doesn't get in Bayern Munich's team, nowhere near their first team. So if he's not playing in their first team, why would we want him, you know, in our club? Is he going to make us better? Is there players there already who should be better than him? In my opinion, yes.
OK, I just want to ask you about the news from Arsenal that we brought you about half an hour ago about Mohamed El Neni. The club saying significant injury to his right knee. He's had successful surgery, ruled out for, quote, an extended period of time. Not what you want when you want your squad to be as big as possible, your good players, when you go into playing Thursday, Sunday as Europe comes back. Yeah,
I mean, hence that's why Jorginho's on the radar. That's why they're looking to bring in Jorginho. I think that's because El Neni's injured. I think if he was fit, I'm not sure this would happen. But I do like the Jorginho transfer. As I said, his experience is absolutely priceless.
Is Jorginho an upgrade on El Neni?
In experience-wise and what he's won and the big games he's played in, I would say, yeah. And I would say so. No disrespect to El Neni, but I'm a big fan of Jorginho.
Best, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, David, a high-octane deadline day for everyone involved. But what about Sean Dyche, just in the door at Everton? So far, it seems to be no. But will they get some signings over the line? And will they look to answer that question? Will a striker in the Championship be able to do it in the Premier League? We'll go to Everton next here on Deadline Day. Familiar start at Nottingham Forest over the past 6 months. A new player arriving potentially to sign 33-year-old Brazilian defender Felipe. More on that as we get it. John Joe Shelby's there as well.
Live from Sky HQ on deadline day, David Garrido, Ed Draper, Nick Powell and Paul Merson bringing you the very latest as it happens. We'll hear from Merson in just a second. Next to Everton, though, less than 9.5 hours to go for the new boss, Sean Dyche, to get in reinforcements. Things not looking too good, though, Vinny O'Connor, eh?
No, Nick, I keep feeling like I'm saying that that's not happening and this deal's not happening. I mean, even hearing Keith Downey speaking before about Conor Gallagher. Of course, earlier in the window, Everton were in for Conor Gallagher with a potential for a loan deal. At that point, they were told that he wanted to stay in London, and over the last couple of days, it's kind of been reiterated that he didn't want to join Everton as well. On top of that, of course, Sulemana, we know, isn't happening here. We know of Everton's interest for a long period of time now, but he's obviously looking to get a move to Southampton at the moment, and that progresses. Gyökeres, we're told that that is a deal that isn't going to happen with Everton today. Also, we understand they're not in for Andre Ayew, whereas Torgan Hazard, Geraldo Becker, Paul Anuachu as well, deals, or certainly players that won't be coming to Everton on this transfer deadline day. You're just wondering exactly what scope there is to maybe get a loan deal to try and ensure that they don't end this transfer window weaker than when they started it, which they will do if they don't bring a player in. After all, they've allowed Anthony Gordon to go, of course. Maybe we know of their interest in Anthony Elanga. Is there scope there perhaps for a loan deal? Could something be ignited as regards that? But at the moment, it's not looking too promising. Certainly Everton are working on it. They're looking to bring in reinforcements. Sean Dyche spoke about it after being unveiled as Everton's new manager, wanting to get players in, but also the need to work with the squad that he's got. And we'll see what developments there are over the coming hours here at Everton.
Phone's well charged. Vinny, thank you.
We are live on Sky Sports YouTube, also Twitch and TikTok for the next 20 minutes or so. A reminder, the deadline for clubs in Scotland to get their deals done is midnight. Let's check in with Luke Shanley, who is in Glasgow for us. Hi there, Luke. Good afternoon. Rangers want to bring in a midfielder. How are they getting on?
Well, Nicholas Raskin from Standard Liège, the midfielder, is at the Rangers training ground now. He has arrived to finalise that deal, which has been on the go for the last few weeks, but certainly drawing to a close now, which will please Michael Beale, who's already brought in Todd Cantwell, made his debut at the weekend. He is at the Rangers training ground, so finalising that move, but it'll be interesting to see if that's the only player that Michael Beale gets in this transfer window. Across the city at Celtic, we know that Georgios Giacomakis is off to the MLS and Atlanta, so he will be going out the door, along with potentially Oliver Abligor and also Yosuke Aiguchi. So that will be interesting to see if Celtic bring anyone in, but they have done a lot of business so far. And just quickly elsewhere, we know that Dylan Reid of St Mirren is off to Crystal Palace, and Ethan Errejón, his teammate, going to Lincoln City. Jay Gorter, the Ajax goalkeeper, has joined Aberdeen on loan, and Zach Rudden, this one will be confirmed later, he will be moving on loan from Scottish Championship Dundee to Scottish Premiership St Johnstone. And as you said, David, it's a midnight deadline in Scotland.
Thank you very much indeed, Luke.
Of course, our cameras are all across Britain today. We saw those shots of Felipe, the centre-half, arriving at Nottingham Forest. Rob Dorset is there for us. And, Rob, you got a wave. That must be optimistic for Forest fans, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we got those pictures for you just a few minutes ago, and an awful lot's happened at Nottingham Forest this morning. It's been a busy one for them, and we expect it to be a very busy afternoon and evening as well. Felipe, a deal agreed, a fee agreed with Atletico Madrid at around 8 o'clock this morning. He flew into the UK about the same sort of time, headed here to Forest training ground. We brought pictures of him arriving at about 11 o'clock, and now these pictures that we can show you again of him leaving the Forest training ground just a few minutes ago, heading for a local hospital where he will continue that part of his medical. They have various scans, MRI scans on his body, in effect, to see if there's anything outstanding there, any old injuries that might be a concern to Forest, before they sign him on a deal later on this afternoon. Personal terms still to be agreed, but the 33-year-old Brazilian is a big name in football, a big signing for Forest, you have to say, although he hasn't played in La Liga since the start of November. So what form is he in? What sort of level of fitness is he in? Can he go straight into Steve Cooper's side? If called upon. So that's Felipe. We've been talking about Jonjo Shelvey the last couple of days as well, haven't we? Well, that deal is still not over the line. I'm told there's no real concerns over it, but the final legal details of his 2.5-year contract have still got to be ironed out. As you heard my colleague Keith Downey up in the North East say, we fully expect that Jonjo Shelvey will head back up to Newcastle for that big Cup semi-final tonight to say goodbye to his teammates and the staff at Newcastle. We're waiting for him to travel past here at any point to head back up north, but he won't do so until he's certain that this deal with Forest is signed and sealed. Keylor Navas, the PSG goalkeeper, that deal has stalled, so as I understand it, Forest desperately looking for another goalkeeper that they can sign as backup to Dean Henderson and Wayne Hennessy. That is Steve Cooper's priority for the rest of this transfer window, but they haven't got Shelvey, they haven't got Felipe over the line just yet. It's going to be a busy one for Forest, and by the way, they're focused on some outgoings as well. More details on that on our transfer blog, skysports.com.
Back to you shortly, it would seem.
As we shoot up the M1 from Nottingham to Leeds. Leeds United, a pretty good transfer window so far. And the transfer action still continuing as the window winds down towards 11 o'clock. Tim Thornton, what's happening?
Yeah, it's been a busy few days here at Leeds. One signing made already this morning. Diego Montero has joined from the Swiss side, Servette. And one player on his way out, Diego Llorente. Paperwork is being finalised on his move to Roma, the player in Rome at the moment. That deal is on track. It's a loan with a view to a permanent deal. Of course, Leeds have already made 3 major signings in this window. Weston McKennie, the big signing yesterday. The future of Jack Harrison is the one thing that remains a little bit unclear as things stand. That is a fluid situation. There is interest from Leicester. Nothing to report as yet, but one to keep an eye on as the day progresses.
Tim, thanks very much indeed.
Tim. Right, let's chat with Paul Merson once again. Nottingham Forest, 23 signings in the summer. They're getting up towards 30. How do you feel about the business that they've done in this winter window, though?
Only time will tell. The lad from Atletico Madrid, he hasn't played since November. He's just there, but he's going to be a defender. Do you know what I mean? That is one thing for sure. You defend Atletico Madrid. I like Shelvey. I think Shelvey's a top player, good midfield player, gets on the ball, he's brave. I think Forest got every chance to stand up. I really do. I think Brendan Johnson's just coming to terms with the Premier League now, getting a little bit more confident. I mean, Gibb White looks a player and a half. I thought it was a lot of money at the time, but he looks like their best player. I think they've got a chance.
Any key signing? One of those teams who is battling relegation, and there are a fair few, who you think could be absolutely critical?
I would say Shelvey. I really do. I think you're bringing in experience, you're bringing in a brave footballer. I call him a brave footballer who gets on the ball even when it's not going well. And I think that's what you need. Forest are going to be up against it in certain games. The crowd are going to be on their back. That's just a natural thing. Not on purpose, but probably in nervousness by the fans. And he's one of them players. He's played in front of big crowds at Newcastle. He'll get on the ball and be brave.
Obviously, Everton are struggling to make signings, obviously with the Sean Dyche situation, but is there anyone else you fear for that they haven't done enough and they might be made to pay for it?
I think Everton, I really worry for Everton. They have been completely and utterly weakened. I mean, the lad's gone to Newcastle. I didn't agree the way it went, but, he weren't pulling up trees at Everton, but he was still another weapon for them. If he clicked like he did at the end of last season, now I look at Everton and I worry for Everton. I do worry for Everton, and that's one team. No disrespect to all the other teams at the bottom, if there's one team I don't want to go down, it's Everton.
All right, for the moment, Paul, thank you very much indeed. Plenty more to come from Merce before 2.
Yeah, Merce worried about Everton. What about Leicester? 3 points clear of the relegation zone, pursuing a defender from the Championship, possibly a midfielder from Leeds as well. We're going to go live and speak to Kirsty Edwards in the next part. Welcome back. Breaking news to WSL. We have a 5 p.m. deadline there. And Anton Tolui, what is that breaking news?
It is that Arsenal will not be signing Alessia Russo. Now, bids came in yesterday. More bids came in today. Negotiations have been taking place. Manchester United basically turned around and said, nope, Alessia Russo is not for sale at any price this window. Big move from Manchester United. Obviously, Russo's out of contract in the summer. Arsenal knew that. They wanted her in now. They wanted her to sort of improve the squad now. Obviously, Beth Mead and Viviane Miedema both out probably for most of the season, if not all the season. So, yeah, big move from Arsenal. Forming all over now. Rejected. Arsenal have been told Alessia Russo is not for sale this window.
OK, Anton Tolui, what does that mean for the title race?
Very good question. It means Manchester United are in a much better position. However, it does mean that Arsenal are going to double down on their efforts to try to get Signe Brunin. The Lyon forward is a target. They've got until midnight to sign her because it's an international deal. Lyon don't want to sell, but Arsenal hopefully doing a deal.
OK, no record deal for Russo then. Anton Tolui, more to come here on Deadline Day. Back to Nick and David.
Thanks very much to Anton for that breaking news from the WSL. Don't forget, as Ed was saying, 5 o'clock deadline. Anton keeping you across all the news all afternoon. Paul Merson's enjoyed. Is that the word? Enjoyed the last 2 hours with us. Have you enjoyed it?
It's gone quick, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Very quick.
Highlight from what's happened already?
I keep on going back to I think the John Joe Shelby, if he gets over the line, I think it's big for Forest. I really do. Really big for Forest.
You're saying he's enough to save their season, potentially keep them up?
I do. I really do, yeah. He's a great passer of the ball. He gets on the ball. He's brave and he's got a lot of pace in front of him and a lot of goal in Gibb White. You know, I could see them scoring a lot more goals now.
If Sean Dyche is to get one player in, which position does it have to be in to make some sort of impact?
It's getting down to desperate now. I just think anybody. I think at the moment this team's not going to stay up, in my opinion. I think it's going to be hard for them, and I think that'd be a shame. I mean, this team's never been relegated. We need Everton in the Premier League, so hopefully they'll go out and buy someone.
And from the relegation zone to comfortably mid-table, I mean, if this Enzo Fernandez deal comes off, how do you sum it up? I mean, it is absolutely bonkers, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's the Premier League, over £100 million for a player who, hadn't played a lot of games for Argentina before the World Cup. He's not sitting on 50 caps. It's a lot of money. Believe me, it's a lot of money. It's the Portuguese league to the Premier League is literally chalk and cheese. But it'd be a great move for the lad, and he's a World Cup winner, so we can't be knocking him.
Yeah. No, even if you compare the Premier League, not just with the Portuguese league, but with any league, Uli was making the point from Munich. The Premier League is now so powerful. Is it unhealthy? Or is it lovely?
Oh, no, it's great. It's great. This is what we want. We want all the best players in this league. I think when it first started many years ago, I think we were bringing in foreign players at the end of their careers, just coming for the wages. Now we're getting players at their pomp, even before they're at their pomp. Enzo Fernandez coming to World Cup winner coming to Chelsea, a young kid who's going to be there for the next 7-8 years. I think it's healthy. I think it's great. That's why everybody around the world watches it.
Do you sense, though, that some of the clubs are trying to keep their powder dry? I mean, Liverpool not doing much today, City as well.
Yeah, I can understand the Liverpool one. I don't think you've got to panic. I think they've got to reset again. You've got to remember Liverpool played every single football match last season. It takes its toll, every football match. This season they've just fell off a bit. But that's because they played every game. They're playing under severe pressure week in, week out, these players. Playing at 8, 9 out of 10 week in, week out for like 60 football matches. It's taken its toll. They've just had a blip. Liverpool will be back. There's no question about that.
And what about Arsenal? They've had a window where they've missed out on Mudryk. Caicedo looks like it's not going to happen. What do you think the overall feeling will be with Arsenal fans come 11 p.m. tonight?
I think if they can get Jorginho, I think it'll be split, the Jorginho one. I think a lot of fans will be, well, do we really need him? He hasn't got the legs. And I think the other half, the connoisseur of football, will be going, what a great buy that is for Arteta. Even if he doesn't play, just being in the dressing room. This lad, he's won the Champions League at Chelsea. He's won the Euros. 2 years ago, we were all going, why don't we produce a player? Why don't English teams produce a player like a Jorginho who keeps on the ball? And for me, I think he'll be a great signing for Arsenal. I really do. I think a massive signing.
It has been an absolute rollercoaster, as always on Deadline Day, and it's been a pleasure to ride it with you, Paul
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, great to have Merce with us. Just want to update you on some of the breaking news we've brought you this hour, just to confirm that Arsenal say that Mohamed El Neni has a serious knee injury. He'll be out for a considerable period of time. They don't know how long yet. And the news that broke about half an hour ago, Manchester United, we're now hearing, have made contact with Bayern Munich over a deal for Marcel Sabitzer. They're waiting for Bayern to decide if they want to do any business or not. United, we're told, would prefer a loan. That could work for Bayern. He's got 2.5 years left on his contract still. One key factor could be United are not direct rivals to Bayern. They're in different European competitions.
Time for a triple substitution here on Sky Sports News. Powell, Garrido and Draper are out. Graves, Taylor and Crichton are in for the next 3 hours here on Sky Sports News on Deadline Day. And Jamie O'Hara's here too.